Ladies and gentlemen, you are now entering the Decent Christian Talk podcast. Enjoy.
Decent Christian Talk episode 29. Happy New Year, guys.
Thank you. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year. This is Josiah. To my right, the Gabe Jones.
Yes,
to
as
his
always.
right, the
Nathaniel.
Fatty.
Fatty.
I will be supplying some nice, intelligent conversation tonight, and Nathaniel will be supplying some of the more stupid comments that you might hear. Just so
As some of you may know, by the way, yes, I am Gabe Jones, as always. These are my brothers. So if you hear them trading barbs throughout this entire show, it's tough love. It's okay.
It's all in love.
So, hey, guys, I promised you, as on the last podcast, I promised that we would do a year-end show, and that's what this is. It was an interesting year in music, and as you know, a lot of people died this year.
Way to kick off the podcast on a positive note.
Well, I'm saying this is a way to, if some of you need cheered up, we're going to give you some things to listen to. Maybe you've not really heard some of these before, so you could check them out.
I know I was going over the list of 2010 releases that you have. Shout out to JesusFreak.com. Well, Jesus Freak Hideout for always having every release that came out this year. That's where
You
I
mean
looked.
2016?
Yeah.
You said 2010.
Yep.
Listen,
So much for the stupid comments.
my name's Nathaniel.
Yeah, okay.
Now,
Well,
yeah,
First
I was looking at some of these 2016 releases, and I was just like, wow, how did I miss? Like, I knew Thousand Foot Crutch released something, but I have yet to sit down and listen to it. So, it's kind of like when the Emmys come out and all the movies are up for awards. I gotta go watch them. So, at the end of the year, looking at all these releases, I'm like, I gotta give that one a second look.
Yep.
So these are kind of like our version of the Grammys, the Dove Awards.
Formerly the Gabe Awards.
Formerly the Gabe Awards, and now the DCT Awards. We're not really giving out any hardware per se, but
Unless one of you people that wins an award wants to come and visit, we could probably find something.
We may give out some participatory trophies at the end. Who knows?
There's a
Cookies.
power drill here on
There's
the table.
cookies.
Yeah, give them some cookies.
I had a marshmallow cookie earlier.
So what we're going to do is we're going to go through the year and just name some notable albums, some good ones, some great ones, maybe some ones that disappointed us, and we're just going to go start out with January. Early in 2016.
That was a long time ago.
That was a whole 12 months ago.
Well,
For those of you that are now listening to the podcast. So, Disciple, they released an EP January called Vultures. You guys have any comments about that?
I've listened to it a few times. That's one of the ones that I was talking about where I looked at it and I was like, I've got to really give that a better listen. I know they played some of the songs off of that EP when I saw them in concert this year, and they were very good. Disciple's very good. We've interviewed them. You can check that out at decentchristiantalk.com under the Disciple podcast.
Yes, and we'll have more on them later in this podcast, so let's not talk about them too much yet.
Let's move on then.
I'll let you guys talk about this for a second. I know you guys are big Showbread fans. They released their last album in January.
Was that Showbread is Show Dead?
Yes.
That album was a throwback to No Sir, Nihilism is Not Practical. And it wasn't as good as that first album, but it still was very good. They brought back one of the original singers. Maybe my favorite song in that was the one about John Piper. And just Calvinism. And it was a good song.
I remember you told me about that song.
This is a sad end to an awesome era. Sad to see them go.
We had an interview lined up with them, and we never got it. Nathaniel dropped the ball.
Sorry, guys.
Sorry, Josh Dyes, if you're listening,
Hook us up.
call us back.
So one album that stood out for me in January was the surprise release of Church Close 3 from Lecrae. That was kind of his release of the year, and he kind of surprised us with that one.
We are laughing because I don't know if you can hear, but Gabe's son Judah in the background is commenting on all this stuff.
He must have not really liked that album too
No,
much.
he's not very happy about bedtime right now.
That's okay. But anyway, that album was really good. It kind of
It was a good surprise.
it created some people's. I know there was some people that did not like it because it tackled a lot of racial issues, and for some reason, people don't think those exist anymore or something.
A lot of people are calling him out for not mentioning Jesus in every single one of his songs, and he's like, I'm moving on to different things, issues.
Yeah. Well,
He's had a big year. He signed with, is it Atlantic Records?
yeah.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, he played on the Tonight Show a couple of times. Yeah, he's continued his strong momentum.
Meteoric rise.
Yes. Okay, so we'll just kind of breeze through going into February. Just a couple of notable ones. Real quick, Sanctus Real with their new lead singer put out their EP, This Is Love, and I dug it. And me and Brendan got to see them a couple of weeks ago, and I'm one of those guys that I'm not really going to buy into something until I see him live. This guy's for real. So I'm excited about that. Steve Taylor and the Danielson Foil. I mean, does this guy ever put out bad music? No. And the fact that this guy is finally putting out music with Peter Furler again, I mean, come on.
Did Rival Choir put something out?
Yes.
We interviewed Rival Choir, and it's
Formerly known as Mouth of the South, if you didn't know that.
They're very good. They're one of the, they're not really newcomers, but they're one of the fresh faces in the metal scene.
Yes.
So give them a listen. That was a good album.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Hillsong Young and Free. For those of you that are into that genre, they released an album called Youth Revival. For me, it wasn't as strong as their debut album, but it was still really good. There's probably 3 or 4 tracks on there that I really, really liked. Falling Into You, off the top of my head, is probably one of my favorites tracks of the year. So, moving on to March. We are already in spring, guys.
Well, not until the 22nd, right?
21st, 22nd, I don't know.
Anyway.
It's a solstice or something. You got to balance.
Judah and the Lion, they released an album. And the only reason why I'm mentioning this is because they are actually opening for 21 Pilots this in January. So that's really an awesome deal for them. And the album's good too. It's called Folk, Hop, and Roll. It's a different album for sure. Newsboys, they released Love Riot.
I like the song Love Riot.
See, for me, this was one of the biggest disappointments of the year because I have really, unlike some people, I've actually liked some of the pop stuff that they've put out with Michael Tate, and this was not
the same.
Not the same.
They kind of moved away. I mean, they reinvented themselves when Tate took over, and then they kind of moved away from that first album.
Jeff Frankenstein said in an interview, and I love Jeff, he said that they wanted to create something that is not normally played on like K-Love. And then they created something that is exactly what is played on K-Love.
Front to back.
So, I don't know what kind of got it was really confusing to me because right after that, they went on tour with God's Not Dead 2, and they didn't even hardly play any songs off the album, and I don't know. I just feel like they just need to get away from the overproduced stuff and get back to, because these guys are talented, man.
Oh, yeah.
They really are. They just need to write their own stuff, and Jeff can program better than anybody, and
They're legends.
yeah. So
DCT
Don't-
Hall of Famers.
don't waste
if we
your
ever
talent,
Open
guys.
up a class of Hall of Fame.
briefly mentioned Tadashi. He released an EP. It's always good to hear that guy. That was one of my favorite hip hop releases of the year.
We interviewed him as well. Actually, I did.
Yeah.
It's the only time Gabe ever said he was proud of me. Go listen to that one. It's a very good interview.
Bethel, for those that like Bethel, they're probably my favorite worship group, I would say, as far as like church groups. And they released an album called Have It All, and I really liked that. Dustin Kensrue also released a solo album. We'll talk a little bit more about him later. It was called Thoughts That Float on a Different Blood. Yeah, definitely check that out, especially if you're more into his solo stuff that he did with Mars Hill. But we're moving on to April. And Kevin Max, Playing Games with Shadows.
The voice, the singer.
Return of the Singer.
The voice.
This was an album that really got a lot of like critical rave reviews.
It was. There's always going to be a mixed reaction because Kevin Max
He's
is
so
never gonna
eclectic,
put out
yeah.
the same thing.
Right.
Like, not only does he not put out the same album twice, he'll never put out the same song twice.
He is somebody that has a lot of different tastes, and he always, it's just kind of like what he's feeling at the moment. And
He's an artist. It's really masterful
Yeah.
what he does.
and he just kind of wants to try,
All different types of
He's
stuff.
Yeah.
not putting out something that he wants to get played on the radio. He's putting out something that he wants to put out.
But anyway, I've listened to a lot of podcasts. I've read a lot of like year-end best of album kind of stuff, and there's a lot of people that are like, "Man, this album surprised me. It was really good." And I guess I don't know. Maybe they weren't into some of the like the new wave stuff that he's done before, and I guess they must have really liked this. But there's not a Kevin Max music that I've never disliked.
There's no one else like him.
But this is like probably one of my favorite solo releases from him, especially since I know that he did it all himself,
Yeah.
and that's pretty cool. Not to minimize the stuff he's done with other people, AC talk, but
A cruise?
What?
yeah, okay.
Anyway.
So April, we're continuing on.
And if we skip any of your favorite artists, tweet us, Facebook us, yell at us, call us, text us. Let us know. Say,
Don't
hey,
text us.
Don't text us. We don't have our numbers out there. Text me.
Jordan Feliz, he released an album. I think he was like the new artist of the year for the Dove Award. And I actually got to talk to him at Creation, just kind of off the record. And I don't know, that dude, I think he's going to be around a while. He has, he's got a crazy good voice. NF, Therapy Session.
I would put this up as my hip-hop album of the year.
Okay, why?
Because, I don't know, Nathaniel's been talking about NF for a while, and I just thought, because they have the same name, he just likes him. But I saw him at Creation this year, and I think he was one of the better performances there. And it always takes me
sure.
seeing someone live to
Yes.
get their recorded stuff. And after I saw him live, I went and listened to some of his music, and I haven't stopped since late summer.
He puts a lot of passion and emotion into his music, a lot of stuff he's experienced. He writes a lot about, especially in this album, stuff that he dealt with his mom's addiction to drugs that eventually took her life. And
I cry every time I hear that song.
It's really heavy stuff. Like, and then the other stuff that he has on the album that's very upbeat, very. I mean, he's just a very good.
I like
rapper.
song with LeBron James in it. Even though I hate LeBron James, it's funny. He's very masterful in his craft.
One thing that really just kind of surprises me with him, I don't know why, but like I'll just be randomly talking to someone that's not necessarily a believer, and they're like, "Yeah, I listen to enough," and
he's relatable with all types of people.
Definitely, and especially with that song about his mom. I mean, there's so many people that hits home with, especially where we live. I mean, that's just a reality for a lot of people, and that's probably one of the strongest tracks of the year, and that's not something that you would really listen to, like want to listen to all the time.
No,
but it's a really good track. Going into May, we're almost to summer, guys. Social Club Misfits, they actually got signed to Capitol Records quietly this year, and that was their major label debut. And
how do you quietly sign? Like, how do you loudly sign something?
Well, I mean, you don't really think of Social Club Misfits as like a major Christian hip hop kind of. I mean,
I guess John Hancock made a loud signature once upon a time.
I guess so, but yeah. So they released an EP. Before we move on, we have to talk about Thrice.
Have to.
Nathaniel, tell us about your crush of the year, Thrice.
So, Thrice disappeared for a couple years.
That was very good, thank you.
Came back with what I believe to be album of the year.
Yeah.
Got to also experience seeing them in concert for the first time of the year.
Yeah.
And I would say that was probably first or second best concert that I saw this year.
Yeah, their album, To Be Everywhere is to Be Nowhere. They always said that they were just kind of going on hiatus, so I never really knew what that really meant.
It means when you don't, like, really break up, but then you, like,
right,
planning on coming back.
But DC Talk also said the same thing, and
they're going on a cruise.
I have like weird feelings about people saying that.
Okay.
I think it's very hard for a band, and I don't think you see it very often, for a band to leave, come back, and then produce an album like they did. I mean, sometimes bands just come back and you kind of think, like, why are they coming back? Is it just for the money or something? But they came back and, like, blew our minds with one of the best albums of the year.
And Dustin Kensrue is just a really good songwriter. And if you haven't checked out the podcast we did with him, scroll back and listen to that. It's really cool to hear his mind.
Every year there's an album that kind of steals the show amongst us. And last year was probably Blurry Face from 21 Pilots. This year, you guys have not stopped talking about Thrice since it came out.
It was good.
Yeah.
So we're moving into June now.
Getting hot.
It's starting to warm up a little bit. Sherwood, there's another band that is kind of from the earlier years that came back and put out an album called Some Things Never Leave You.
Starflyer 59 did the same thing.
Starflyer 59, even though they have released some albums lately, it's always good to hear them. That's a style for me that I wish we heard a little more of, because I really dig that style. 1,000 Foot Crutch, they released an album. I really haven't gotten to listen to it that much, but
was it their first independent album?
No. This is like, I believe they released like 2 albums on the last Kickstarter or something.
Yeah, I think so.
And this is the second one.
This is one of those
But this
albums,
is called Exhale.
Like
they
Josiah
just
said, kind of at the
sneaked
end of the
under.
year reveal.
Yeah, I saw that on there. And actually, just recently, big professional wrestling fan, one of their songs was featured on one of the wrestling events. And I was like, yeah, 1,000 Foot Crutch put something out this year.
They still have some mainstream appeal.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of like with not in the same way, but with Disciple, they always put out good albums, but they kind of get lost sometimes because I don't know. It's just like nothing. It's the same. Yeah. It's the same format. It works, but it's not
new.
Not new necessarily, I guess. Disciple may have been a bad example. I would probably compare it more with Skillet, the last few albums.
Yeah. Disciple's newer stuff is, they're evolving. They're staying the same.
Yeah. Sorry, Disciple was a terrible example, actually. King's Kaleidoscope, they released Beyond Control, probably one of the more controversial moments of the year, with a song called The Prayer. But disregard that song and listen to the rest of the album, and it's outstanding. We got to talk with them.
And yes, they talk about the song.
Yes.
The song.
On a prior podcast, so check out the interview we did with King's Kaleidoscope. But that's definitely one of my favorite worship albums of the year. So I know we just went through a lot of albums. Do you guys have anything? We're kind of like at the halfway point. Nothing.
You want to take a water break, or are you okay?
No, I'm all right.
Stretch. We get some orange slices in here.
Going into July, we just saw this band, Silent Planet.
Very good. Very good.
Silent Planet. There was a moment in that concert where we were at the concert. Norma Jean's playing one of their most iconic songs of all time, Memphis Will Be Laid to Waste. And the lead singer from Silent Planet comes out. And it crossed my mind. I was like, Norma Jean is the pinnacle of metal right now. And here's the future next to him. And it's one of the coolest moments. I got to see John Foreman sing one of my favorite songs with Reliant K this year, and I would put that right up there next to it, where it was like the part that he sang, the lead singer from Me Without You sings, and he absolutely killed it.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where you don't want to remake it. You're like, I don't want to remake It's a Wonderful Life because we won't make it as good as it was, but they killed it live.
And not to be too much of a spoiler, but we are actually going to have Silent Planet on a future podcast, and it's a very interesting.
It's a good. It's I loved it. We were just kind of backstage and
hanging out.
If you don't, I'm going to be completely honest. It might not make very much sense because you don't see what we're actually doing. But we're just kind of hanging out and talking to random people. Norma Jean's coming through. We're chit-chatting with them, and it's one of my favorite podcasts.
Yeah. Next thing we know, he's ordering video games.
He ordered some video games while we were talking. He gave us some top secret information.
Okay, well, we don't want to give too much away.
That's true.
You have
to listen.
I will say, from when I saw them last year to this year, there's a dramatic difference.
Stage presence.
Yeah, you can tell he's
way better.
Just from the guys that he's probably been touring with.
Yeah, the show
he's learned a lot.
Was increasingly better, and this album was fantastic.
Sick.
All right, so House of Heroes, they released an album called Callers.
Another album that just flew right under my radar. House of Heroes is one of my favorite bands ever. I was reading that list and I said, no way. Did they really release something and no one told me?
They're incredible.
Most underrated band. If you have not listened to House of Heroes and you like music or breathing, then what are you doing?
Switchfoot, Where the Light Shines Through.
Do we really need to say anything?
Yeah, this is one of the best albums of the year for me. And not just because it's Switchfoot.
And admittedly, yourself, you said, you listened to it the first time. I remember you texted me and you said, I don't like it. Then a week later, you texted me back and you said, this is one of the best albums of the year. And I was like, what changed over a week? What happened? And you're like, well, you just had to listen to it.
Yeah, this album just, it was one of those that needed a few listens, to be honest. But it really grew on me really quickly.
This is one of those bands that always puts out front-to-back albums continuously. Like, you think, oh, they're not going to do so well this next album, and then they just blow your mind again.
Started following John Foreman on Instagram after we saw them in concert, he had one of those signs where the light shines through, and Surviving Suicide is where the light shines through. If we had an award for Picture of the Year, that would probably be it, because that like jumped right off the screen at me. That was so cool.
Need to Breathe, they released an album. Do you guys have any comments about?
That flew under my radar.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. Well,
Reliant K, they released an album. Air for Free.
they are ever evolving, and sometimes they evolve past where I like them. And this is one of those albums where it's like, it's good to listen to, but it's not on my regular playlist.
Notable that JesusFreakHideout.com listed this as their album of the year.
Really?
So, yeah, that's
It's-
surprising.
It's one of the, yeah, like it's one of those, like I said, I'm trying, like, one of their first albums, and not just because everything that was old is better. I like some of their first albums, and then I liked I didn't really like, they put out 10 whatever albums. I would say,
There's Forget and Not Slow Down, and then there's... Yeah, I know what you mean.
yeah, I mean, they change, but they stay the same. And around the same time that they released that, KB released a single called Tempo, which is right up there for Rap Song of the Year with me. Have you listened to that song?
Yeah, it's really good.
Yep.
It's more of like his that 100 EP he released. It's more kind of in that.
Kind of like the I Believe song, too.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah, so Skillet, they released an album.
Yeah. They, in true Skillet fashion, very popular among their core fans.
It's kind of been the same with me the last 2 or 3. There's like 2 or 3 songs on every album that I'm like, okay, that's good. But then the rest of it for me is just kind of forgettable, unfortunately. And I'm somebody that loves those guys. Especially just
1996. They've been
yeah. I've followed them ever since they were a 3-piece band, and yeah, I'm very happy for their success. But their new stuff is really not my favorite.
No, not mine either.
I really enjoy their new stuff though. I know probably some of their harder albums. I know Collide and
yeah, that was my favorite album.
Which was the one before Collide? Or no, the one
Comatose
after.
was right after.
Comatose was after.
Yeah.
Collide was probably my favorite. Comatose probably second, and then their original.
We're into August now. You want to talk about Aaron Gillespie's solo kind of album?
You Got to Meet Your Hero. Was it this year or was that last year?
It was the beginning of this year.
I got hit really hard in the head during that concert, so I honestly don't remember very much of it.
That was with Under Oath, though. His single album, this was very intriguing because he's had Under Oath, which is very heavy music. He's had the Almost, which is hard rock, and then he's put out some of his worship stuff. So going into this, he did some acoustic with some of his own stuff, and then he rewrote some of Under Oath songs into acoustic versions.
Yeah.
And I was very much questioning it because a lot of times when people take things and remake them that are already fantastic and make them into acoustic or some type of other remix, it kind of destroys it. But he did very well with it. I mean, I can't remember off the top of my head exactly the songs he did. I know he did Reinventing Your Exit. I know he also did some songs from the Almost, such as Southern Weather, and he nailed it. I mean, he's just a great artist all around.
Speaking of Reinventing Your Exit, I believe Maylene and the Sons of Disaster are rumored to release something in the upcoming year, but that's later.
Yes. September, Norma Jean released an album called Polar Similar.
Oh, did they?
Happy birthday to Nathaniel. This is another controversial thing, such a very King's Kaleidoscope. I know when we saw them live in concert, they did not shy away from the language that they put on this album. But at the same time, this album is
Wow.
Norma Jean.
Killer.
It is the almighty Norma Jean. I know some people are not fans of their newer style. Some people I work with are like, since they lost their old lead singer, which was 15 years ago by now, they are not as good, but
I love this album, and I love seeing them live.
they
the
were
first time.
so good live.
Oh my goodness!
You hear
Yeah.
bands like we always say, you got to see it live.
This is one of those bands I've been waiting to see live for years, and it did not disappoint.
I always say, I'm going to stand in the back. I'm done down in the pit. I'm done down on the fence. I'm done getting beat up. They came out and started playing their first song. I turned around, handed Gabe my coat and my phone. Said, all right, going in.
I was scared that night. Continuing on in September, Citizens and Saints, another band from Marseille, along with Dustin Kensrue and King's Kaleidoscope. They released Amir Demley. That was I really didn't get into the last album they put out. There was a couple good tracks on there, but this one was more kind of like their debut album for me, and I really liked that one. Crowder released an album
He did.
that I know a lot of people liked, and
I still don't understand why you're not a big fan of it.
I like Neon Steeple better. I'll just say that.
Nathaniel's over here talking album of the year, and Gabe's like, will you stop playing the new Crowder?
So, okay, this is the way that I could describe it. You know how some people might not understand some of the eclectic stuff that Kevin Max does?
Yes.
This is me not really understanding.
I enjoy it because we see things that are produced and played on K-Love that were just kind of like, this just sounds the same all the time.
Yeah.
And then Crowder comes out and he takes a very different style to it. It's more country, which I don't enjoy country. It's more like folky
folk,
with the
yeah.
the banjos and stuff. But he has fun with it. Like
Yeah.
it's very different sounding.
I like that I like that part of it, but
I'm glad he breaks out of the shell.
sometimes, like with Kevin, when he goes to be eclectic, I think that's genuine, and sometimes I feel with Crowder it's more like he's just trying to be different. But I don't know.
You see him
I
in
think
concert though, and he's
Lift
crazy.
Your Head, Weary
He is
Sinner.
nuts.
That would be up for live song of the year when Tadashi came out.
That was
and
pretty sweet.
killed it.
All right, so Paper Route, they released Real Emotion.
Not to be confused with the Newsboys.
Yeah, Paper Route. This album for me was up there with the Thrice album. If you guys have never listened to them, you need to check them out.
What
really,
style are they?
kind of like Coldplay, kind of,
It's a very good album.
yeah. I guess Coldplay would be my best comparison, and I hate doing that. Devil Wears Prada
The Devil Wears Prada,
in October.
Happy Birthday to Me. They put out this album, and I listened to it, and it's like laid back heavy metal.
I did not like it at first.
I made Nathaniel listen to it again. It is, it's called Transit Blues,
Yes.
and it's just, I don't know. Is it a concept album? It's just all about being in transition, in between things, traveling on the road. Just like, I don't know. There's just like this whole feel to the album of like,
It's kind of like
we got to hear what do we do next, and I'm 27 years old. That just like yells to me. Gabe has a son. You're
doing some things.
doing some
soon.
things, and I'm like, I'm 27. I'm not there yet. And that album just kind of like said, us too. Like it was kind of cool.
Under Oath-esque feeling to it with the ambient, laid back metal like you were talking about.
I don't know about that, but it was more guitar driven than they normally are.
Yeah.
Because they've had a lot of keyboard stuff in the
Synth,
past.
Yeah.
And I know that lead singer Mike has been picking up the guitar lately, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if I went and saw them in concert and he held it for most of the show.
Speaking of concept albums, Sho Baraka released an album called The Narrative in October, and that is by far my favorite hip-hop album of the year. Maybe of the last few years, to be honest.
I gave this one a couple listens, and I don't typically enjoy this style of hip hop, honestly, but he nailed it. I mean,
Yeah.
he did very well with this album. It's very different, very artistic. Yeah,
He's a different cat, and I mean that in a good way. Fit for a King.
More of a dog person.
Fit for a King's album was good.
I've heard some mixed reviews
You said
about
it like
Some parts of it
you
was,
said the word good, but your voice didn't sound like you enjoyed
some
it.
parts of it was enjoyable. Some parts of it was just. This might be one of my kind of letdown albums of the year because
Did you let them know that when you interviewed them on decentchristiantalk.com? Scroll back, listen to it.
It sounds very similar to the album previous that they released last year, and I don't know, they kind of let me down. But there's some hopeful parts on the album. I just kind of expected something different, something not sounding so similar.
Okay.
Speaking of that, Disciple, they released Long Live the Rebels, and probably my favorite, like, Christian rock album of the year. Because I wouldn't consider Thrice that necessarily. But these guys, they're not going away. They're really not.
They keep coming back. And that was one of the things we talked about in our interview at decentchristiantalk.com. Just go back, listen to that podcast. Or have we released that already, didn't we?
Yes.
Okay, just making sure. No, don't give them any false information. I asked them, because they came close to us. They came to Pittsburgh, and I couldn't make it. None of us could make it. Our parents went.
Our parents were front row.
Our parents were down in the pit with one of our good friends, Rob Mays, and I asked them, I said, do you find that a lot of your people, because of your style and how long you've been around, are older? They said, we did a poll, I don't know how they did it, a cross-reference of all their shows, and their crowd is younger than it has ever been. So Disciple's not going anywhere. They've been around for 20 years, and they might be around for 20 more.
Yeah, they've had some staying power. They've been around a while, and it doesn't look like they're going to...
They're one of those bands that can completely melt your face off and then completely bring you to your knees in a worship song, all within 10 minutes.
Just kind of closing out the year in December, there's a couple albums, kind of both hip-hop, Tripoli and KJ52.
Because they have been so recent, I've yet to listen to either. And
Yeah.
I think we should push KJ's till next year if there's any hip-hop awards, because we released it on Christmas Day. Merry Christmas to everyone. We recently interviewed him, but he's a fan favorite. He's a friend of the podcast.
I actually got an ice scraper for Christmas.
I did too. A heated ice scraper. For you people that may live in warmer climates, we have to scrape the ice off of our vehicles. And in a Stump the Rapper contest once upon a time, I almost stumped KJ with an ice scraper because he's from Miami. He had no clue what that was. But
He pulled it off.
he did. I mean, he's an incredible world record holder for a reason.
So in the world of Christian music, that pretty much takes care of it. There's a couple secular albums that I dug throughout the year. A couple ones noticeable: Kings of Leon, Young the Giant, Radiohead, One Republic, Jimmy Eat World. Heck, even the Deftones released an album. That was really cool. David Bowie, he released an album. That was cool. Chance the Rapper, I know he's actually done some stuff with Kirk Franklin, and he actually sang the one. He did not sing. He actually did the one that he had with Kirk Franklin on Saturday Night Live a couple weeks ago. So
Did
that was
Bieber's
cool.
album come out this year?
No, that was last year.
Well, it's carried over
Sorry.
to this year. It was that good.
So there's also, we didn't mention Army of Bones because they're not releasing a full-length album until next year, but that's always good to hear Martin Smith, even if it's not in a worshipful kind of thing, which is fine with me because he's got a great rock and roll voice.
I prefer his rock and roll voice.
Yes.
One album we did forget to mention that came out this year was Types and Shadows by Wolves at the
Bulls
Gate.
of the Gate, yeah.
This album is great. Their first album was awesome as well, but they're so new that I was just kind of waiting for this album to come out before I judged them. I've seen them live before. Wasn't really familiar with their stuff, so when this album came out, it was great. It was probably one
Did
of
they
my
release
favorite
their
albums
acoustic
of the
stuff
year.
this year, or was that last year
That
too?
was last year.
I know that really jumped out at you. Kind of reminds me of Falling Up back in the day, where they put out a remix album that kind of spoke to the masses more than the rest of the rest of their original album. So that one really grabbed your attention, which made you a Wolves at the Gate fan when they released this newer one.
Yeah, check them out. We did a podcast with them, so we gotta wrap this up. You guys want to do album of the year real quick?
I'd have to say Thrice.
I do too. Thrice.
It's a toss-up for me between
Paper Route is runner-up.
There's so many
probably
close calls.
The Devil Wears Prada or Norma Jean, I would have to say. It just depends on the mood I'm in.
Yeah. Switchfoot too.
Song of the year?
I would say between Long Defeat by Thrice and I Won't Let You Go by Switchfoot. Both of those just really resonated with me this year. I Won't Let You Go was wrote by John Foreman. It's on Switchfoot's album. He was just having a very hard time, and this song was pretty much an answer from God, just telling him, no, I'm not going to let you go no matter what happens. And Long Defeat is just a very interesting song, talking about sometimes you feel like you don't get victories for a while. Sometimes it doesn't seem like the sun's going to come up tomorrow. Sometimes you don't feel like you're going to get your reward till heaven, but we're going to fight this defeat because we know we have the victory, and I just love that song.
I know on Switchfoot's album, the one about the house burning down? What's that called?
If the House Burns
If the
Down.
House Burns Down.
Right.
Oh, yeah. That was 1 Million Watts from Norma Jean.
Yeah.
Probably hip-hop song of the year would be
Clean
KB
version.
Tempo.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would probably say Chariots by Paper Route is my favorite. Heathens by 21 Pilots. Really
I forgot
good.
that was released this year.
Yeah.
Speaking of 21 Pilots, they just released something with Mute Math,
Yes.
which
Was
you guys
amazing.
love, but
Watch
me, on the other hand,
Listen to it.
go look at it for yourself.
The
Listen to
musician
it
in
again.
this group didn't like it, so that tells you what. Okay, what's the next category?
Concert of the year.
Okay.
All right. I got to see Under Oath again this year, so that has to be top of my list.
Okay.
Thrice, getting to see Thrice for the first
yeah,
time
that was cool.
was fantastic. And then I have to put the Switchfoot Reliant K concert. Getting to see them both play 15 plus songs.
That was great. The
Norma Jean.
for Today farewell tour, top to bottom, Norma Jean, Silent Planet, were there too, and then Project 86.
I have to say, yeah, that was Project 86 was great. I have to say, for King and Country for me, really did well.
Yeah. I forgot about that one. That was fantastic.
Yeah, I really like seeing them live.
They got a
this
lot
year.
of energy. Just running around constantly playing different instruments.
Yes, they kind of reminded me almost like of the old Newsboys, the way that they ran around. Is there any other ones?
I already kind of talked about surprise album of the year for me with Wolves at the Gate, just kind of coming out with an awesome album front to back. And then I had letdown albums. I'd say Beartooth leads that one for me. This album sounds pretty much exactly like the previous album, front to back, the whole thing. If you put it on a continual playlist, I wouldn't have even known the album changed over.
There's been a lot of movie releases this year from the Christian market. What would you put on top of your list for Christian movies this year? Or books, you can add
Definitely
that too.
the Priceless movie.
That movie was awesome.
That For King and Country did was amazing. I would say, like, for me, just summing up this year, it seems like Christian music is still kind of trying to find itself after, I don't know, the last couple of years has been really down, it seems like.
I would agree.
And there's a lot of, people that are trying to burst through that creative bubble. And I think, there's some areas that are promising, but then there's also, it's just really hard to do it because you're not making any money. It's hard to do that. But we definitely are for those that try to do it, and we're going to always give you guys our attention when you do that. So, do you have any lasting words for 2016?
I'm really looking forward to August Burns Red's new album.
Okay.
Is that in 2016, or did you just not answer the question? Okay, moving on to 2017. 2016 was a good year. It was one of those years where a lot happened, and looking back, today you brought this list in of everything that was released. I didn't realize how much had happened. I was driving here, and I was like, what are we going to talk about? This is going to be like a 3-minute podcast. Like, yeah, that was 2016. People died. It was sad. But there's a lot of pretty solid stuff this year. You may have had to look for it a little bit, but
that makes it fun, though.
That's why we're here.
So, 2017, there's going to be some good stuff. Just keep on listening to this podcast. We're going to keep you updated. We're going to have interviews. Just popping them out as much as we can. And when we don't have interviews, you'll hear our lovely, friendly voices
more often
talking.
Just about random stuff. Shout out to Danny Castanga, who won the Hands and Feet Fantasy Football League. Not only in the KJ52 section, but I believe he won.
He ran the table
twice.
In a lot of
He
leagues.
curb stomped me in the championship.
Yeah.
I mean, not to get into football too much, but his team was too good.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you, Danny. He was on the first original podcast with us. I did not know that was being recorded at the time, so I apologize if I was not wearing pants when that was being recorded. But
anyway,
it was good.
Hey, guys, we will catch you later. We hope you've had a good 2016. We hope you have an even better 2017. God bless.
And don't forget to tip your waiters and waitresses.
Don't forget to tip your waiters and waitresses. Thanks.